because I grew up inner city Atlanta in this environment that I scraped, I clawed, had a lot of great people help me get out of, make it to college, get to college, play football, start doing very well. Things are looking up for me. My career ends, and I find myself back in the very community that I grew up in, 2 blocks away from where I grew up, with $250 in my pocket at my wife's grandmother's home. And my wife was pregnant, about to have our first daughter. And it was in that moment that I realized I had no control over my life. Because I had been working from the time I was 7 until the time I was 20, and every action, every decision, every choice was geared toward me trying to make it to this thing called the NFL, the National Football League, which I found out very soon and early that it didn't just stand for National Football League, it also stood for not for long. Here, gotta rush this kid back to emergency surgery. He's about to die. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, man, you can't use another word? I'm like, use a synonym, brother, like die? I'm thinking he's trying to shock me. I'm like die. He's like, yeah, die. I'm like, what happened? He said, you ruptured your subclavian artery in your chest, you're bleeding internally. He said, we got to rush you back, take the main vein out of your left leg, plug it into your chest in order to save your life. He said, oh, I guarantee you, you won't be here in the morning. Let's go. The next morning I woke up. It's top 3 most embarrassing moments in my life. People were coming over to my bed saying, Ink, man, you deserve it, man. You're a good guy, man. You deserve the NFL. You work hard. You never cheated the game. You did things the right way. You deserve it, man. It shouldn't have happened to you. And I'm sitting there, and I don't know if you've ever been through something that the situation holds so much conviction that it makes you self-assess and question your principles and your values about life. I went into surgery for an artery. I came out of surgery, got cut 6 times down my left thigh, 1 time across the left side of my neck, 1 time across the right side of my neck, twice through my right ribs, cut out my right pec, bottom of my armpit to the bottom of my hand, 350 staples in my body, bandaged me from my neck to my knees. This ain't lip service. I'm like, what happened? They like, yeah, when we went to do the artery, we noticed you had torn the nerves in your brachial plexus. I'm like, what's that? Nerve roots that go from your spine, they control your shoulder, your arm, and your hand. They go into your spine like a plug. You rip them out, they can't be replugged. They were telling me in that moment, pretty much, Ink, it's a soft landing, but your career is pretty much over. And I was so embarrassed because I felt like I had shortchanged God. I'm like, man, with all the gifts, talents, and abilities that God had blessed you with, the only thing you were focused on was the NFL? That's low-hanging fruit. I'm like, Ink, was that it? Like, and my father is sitting there, and everybody is analyzing the situation, trying to see how I'm going to respond, and my father's on fire. And the first thing my father says to me is, Ink, how does this God that you love so much let this happen to you? How does it God, Ink, you go to FCA for, let this happen to you? How does it God you go to church for, let this happen to you? How does this God you pray to, son, let this happen to you? I see when you make a play and you say, glory to God. Well, if God is so good, Ink, how could this God let this happen to you? And I'm like, oh man, God gonna spank him. I'm like, God gonna spank him. But his frustration was real. Because through his lenses, all he can see is, my son is hurt. All he can see is the 2 people that I've loved the most my whole life was my mother and my son, and I lost my mother at 14 to cancer, and so when your mother had you, I was running because I was scared and I didn't have anybody. And now when I get back in my son's life and we got a decent relationship, now my son is crazy about God and his career ends and he almost loses his life. Man, what's up with this God? And I'm sitting there like, God, what's up? And God like, no, I got you. And I'm like, man, you got a funny way of showing it. And they're like, Inky, you're going to be in the hospital the next 40 or 60 days. I'm like, can you order me a Dunjoy sling? They're like, why? I'm like, I need to go back to practice with my teammates. They're like, Inky, you need to take a break. Something traumatic has happened to you. I'm like, no, I made a vow to my teammates. I'm like, I got to go back to class. I got to graduate. They saved my life Saturday night. I was back in class Monday. You know the crazy thing about life? You got some cats, they get an ACL, they act like they can't go to nothing. They can't come to school, they can't eat. It's crazy to me. Like Eric Berry wears number 29 in the NFL in honor of me, and he doesn't wear that because of what I did as a player. He wears that because when I got injured and I got back to practice that next Wednesday after they saved my life, and we were in the sand pit, and I looked at him in the sand pit, and I said, you better not let me beat you. And no drill. And I had a Dunjoy sling, and I had a Velcro strap, 2 of them, strapped to my body, and it had my arm like this, so I could run sprints and so I could be in the sand pit with my teammate. Like, team means something totally different to me. Like, my teammates showed up at my house when I got injured, and they were in my closet because I had to learn how to tie my shoe, and they were in my closet before I learned, and they were making sure all of my shoes were tied. It means something different to me. Like, my teammates showed up at my house, and they were like, Ink, you need us to take you to church? We got you, man, whatever you need. Like, teammates mean something totally different to me. They showed up, Inky, you need to go to FCA? I know you bandaged up. We got you. What you need? It means something totally different to me. And I didn't tell my teammates when I signed on at Tennessee that, yeah, man, I'm going to be a great teammate unless I get injured. No, I'm going to be a great teammate. In spite of an injury, I'm going to still show up and I'm going to still go to meetings. In spite of, if I almost lose my life, the funny thing about it is, at the end of the day, you got to take my life before you take my drive. Because I'm not working for accolades. I'm not working for statistics. I wasn't playing for that. In Colossians 3:23, it says, do all things as if you're doing it for the glory of God. And if I'm doing something for the glory of God, at a certain point, when the opposition, the adversity, and the challenges hit, I'll rejoice because I know it's God trying to take me to the next level. And so the discomfort for me is great. Like, at a certain point, the comfort zone, young people have to understand, the comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. You can be comfortable all you want, but you can equate comfort to being stagnant. If a person never wants to grow, it's heavy sacrifice involved and it's heavy discomfort involved.
What they thought today is the same things they thought yesterday about themselves, about their life, about their business. That's why most people's lives don't change very much. But if you wake up and you start realizing, I'm living in a home, an emotional home I don't want, you can change it. See, because everybody's got it. If you got $1 billion, check this out. If you had $1 billion, but the habitual emotions you go back to are frustrated and pissed off, then your life is called frustrated and pissed off. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Write this down, please. The quality of my life is the quality of my habitual emotions. The quality of my entire life is nothing but the quality of my habitual emotions. Whatever habits of emotion, wherever my emotional home is, I will find a way to get back there. And until I change that, I'm going to have a problem.
Listen to me, man. You have a great life in front of you. But your great life is in front of you. It's not behind you. What you did back there ain't got nothing to do with what God got for you. What you did back there was learn the lessons to get you to where you are at this particular moment right here. But what God got for you, do you know, man, that you can actually mess your life completely up? You can jack it all the way up, and you can turn around and get it right. Do you know that you can be divorced multiple times and still be okay? Do you understand that you cannot have a degree and still be just fine? You want to know how I know? Because I'm telling you what I know. I lost everything twice. I don't know if you've ever lost everything before, but I've been bottomed out twice. I done seen rock bottom 2 times. I've been through some walls up in here, man. I'm just trying to tell you, man, God is really with you. Matter of fact,
how many of you see people in some part of the world, in my country, for example, you'll see this in the middle of America where there's certain places that have cyclones all the time. Or maybe down in New Orleans or places where every few years you get a huge storm that wipes out everybody right on the coast there. But then 2 years later, it happens again. They rebuild, it happens again. How many have ever thought to yourself, why don't these people move? Why don't they move, guys? Because it's what they're conditioned. They call that home. I don't want to leave my home. It's what I know. It's easy to see when it's somebody else and it's physical. It's harder to see when it's yourself and it's emotional, because we have an emotional home. Some of you grew up in a really tough environment. I did too. Pretty brutal environment. Very painful environment. Part of I am who I am is because I didn't want to suffer. I had to find answers. And because I suffered so much, I don't want you to ever suffer if I can do anything about it. I can't control it, but I can help massively.
I write a book on how to make it without God. Because I want to read it. I want to read the first page. And then I want to read the last page, because there ain't going to be but two. God is in the forgiving business. You can make all the mistakes you want to make or think you shouldn't make. God is in the get it together business. If you got dreams and visions, I got news for you. God is in the make your dream come true business. And you can listen to me and tell that I'm not a perfect person. I have my flaws. I am a flawed human being. But guess what? You are too. You ain't got it all together. I dare you to say you do. I make a lot of money, man. But guess what? I ain't got it all together. I'm hurting. I'm hurting, man. Everybody tripping through something. Everybody, I don't care who you are, you're going through something. But if you got God, you can make it. I'm just telling you this little piece of information. Look, I don't see most of y'all most of the time. So you're sitting here, you're kind of looking at me a little bit odd. Why Steve talking like this stuff? I'm just trying to put you on game. Because let me tell you, all y'all want to be successful. And you want to be happy, but you got to get there. It's a shortcut to getting there. The shortcut to getting there is the relationship with God. If you try it without Him, you're going to fail miserably. You're going to sink, man. It's going to be ugly for you. Identify your gift and get busy with it. God gave all of you a gift. Identify your gift. It is the thing that you do the absolute best with the least amount of effort. That's your gift. Get busy at that. He put that gift inside of you. He didn't hide it under a rock or put it under the mountain or put it on the mountain somewhere. He put the gift in you.
But it's only because I suffered so much, I don't want anybody else to. But think about it. Most people suffer even when they're successful. Listen, if you're successful and you're not fulfilled, that's the ultimate failure. If you got people that love you and you're not feeling joyous and alive, something's wrong. And you know what it is? You got an old home you're used to. Maybe the home you're used to is not a very happy home. It's a home of worry, a home of frustration, a home of anger, a home of feeling everything's unjust. And so you find a way to get back home using whatever the environment you can use. How many of you know somebody who's always pissed off about something? How many of you know somebody who is always worried? How many of you know someone who's not really funny, but they think they are? And they crack themselves up telling stupid jokes. How many know someone like this who cracks themselves up and they laugh so much that even though it's not funny, you find yourself laughing too? These people have different emotional homes. Some people's home is anger. They'll always find something to be angry about. It's what they're used to. It's their conditioning. So even when the storm comes in and messes up their life, they go right back to that same shit. Wouldn't it be nice to upgrade your home, your emotional home where you live? What if you could live every day with a vast majority of the emotions you had were joy and gratitude and love and appreciation, even in the middle of COVID, even when somebody does something unjust, compassion, playfulness? What would that feel like if you were in those states every day, 95% of the time? When you weren't, you got out of it quick. You can make that change this weekend, and I'm not exaggerating an ounce. I'm not saying you're going to be perfect and never have a negative feeling, because negative feelings are sometimes a signal to make us change. But most people have a negative feeling and they just hang on to it and keep living with it and find other things to be negative about. That will never give you what you want. The money won't do it. The acknowledgement of others won't do it. Everything you think will do it will not do it. Only one thing will do it. You drawing a line in the sand and making the most important decision of your life, that you're going to live in a beautiful state no matter what. Because life is too short to suffer. And we have a choice. Listen to me. Pain is sometimes part of life, but suffering is a choice. But for most of us, not a choice, because we have the habit of suffering, being stressed, being worried, being frustrated, being pissed off. And because we're wired that way, that's the muscle we built. But if we rebuild our home here so it's even more magnificent, then you can have the life that you desire and deserve. And you can do it in one weekend only if you give your all and push enough energy out while you're doing it, while you're learning. Who's up for this here? Who's up for enhancing your home massively? Say aye. Aye. Say aye. Aye.